Alright, welcome back to the SciMax channel. Today I'm going to continue talking about org-ref and the acronyms, glossaries, and indexes that it supports. So it's pretty common in technical writing to use acronyms like TLA. That's short for a three-letter acronym. Excuse me. And sometimes we have technical terms that we want to provide a glossary for, and we also will typically put an index into long documents to help you find things. So today I'm going to show you how org-ref supports those things and how we use links to provide that support. So the main idea here is that we are going to define acronyms and glossaries in a table, and that table is going to look like this. So it has to have a name of acronyms, and these first two lines of the table are ignored, but then we have a row for each kind of term. So TLA is going to be a label that we can refer to. This is what the abbreviation actually is, and then the full form would be, say, three-letter acronym. And then for a glossary, we have a similar structure. And here we just say we're going to use a label that we can refer to a term, and this is also kind of like an acronym, but let's go ahead and add fluid. I'll use FB, and let's say that this is the singular form of fluids. All right, so that might be a technical term that we're going to refer to, and now we want to be able to use it. So let me show you what these look like in practice. So acronyms are going to be these orange links, and they're functional in the sense that you can hover over them and see that TLA is a three-letter acronym. And then here we see the full form, and if you click on this, it will jump to the definition up here, and we should be able to jump back with Alt space or whatever you have set for jumping back. And then the glossary terms are these purple links. So here, if you hover over it, it tells you what they are. And again, if we click on this, it jumps to that, and it tells you these are all misspelled. But you can, let's see if we click on this again. Let's just fix this so that here it says go back with metaspace. So I have that command bound to metaspace, so I can jump right back. And then here is an index term, and this doesn't really do very much. Let's see, if you click on it, it runs a cur in the document, so you can see all the places that acronym appears. That's not super functional, but it's okay. All right, so how do I get these in here in a convenient way? So the first time we use an acronym, you probably should use the full form so that you know what it is. And so I'll use the Hydra here, and we'll put in an acronym link A, and it gives me completion here. I only have the one acronym defined, so we'll select it, and now we have all these options here for putting in these links. So the short one is just going to be the actual acronym, and there's a way to put in a plural version of it. If we use this one, it will be a capitalized version if that's what you need. And we have plural versions of these, and then we have a long version, that's just the definition. And we have the full version, which is the acronym and its definition. So the first time we use it, we'll pick the ACR full. And when I press enter, it automatically inserts the right thing. And this is just a regular looking link. Let's have a look here. So we have ACR full : TLA. That's what gets us to here. And then we use the description that's automatically generated for us. All right, so let's get back to the descriptive links. And then this one is the same. This is just the short version. So maybe I'll go back to this real quick. Up here you can see we have the ACR short : TLA, and then this is what the three-letter acronym stands for. All right, so that's the full, and just for let's do completeness, let's look at a plural version. Let's say I want this. This will automatically put an S at the end for 3-letter acronyms, and it will be automatically inserted. All right, you can see already that the glossary links are very similar. There's a bunch of different styles. Let's look at those real quick. Let's see, here we press G, and we have 2 different kinds. So let's pick FB, and we have all of these options as well. So here is just the term, and this one will be flubit, and we have a plural term, capitalized, and then plural capitalized. So let's pick this one, since maybe this is at the beginning of a sentence, and this will capitalize the flu at the beginning and add an S to it. And we might say something like this. All right, so normally I use the descriptive links, and this will just have flubits here, and this tells me that it's the singular form of flubits. Not super helpful, but it's okay. All right, there is a print glossaries link here. This is where the glossary and acronyms are going to get put. I think this one doesn't do anything, but print index does. So if I click on print index, then it generates an index where all of the terms are used. And if I click on one of these, it will jump to the place where it is defined. So I have defined a couple of index entries. There's an acronym entry here, a glossary index here, and a acronym index down here. Those are helpful places that we might want to look at. So we can get those by putting print index in here. All right, so let's take a look at what these things build to, because these are nice in the org file, but one of the main reasons to use these is that we export to something other than org. And I'll start with LaTeX, because all of these ideas came from things that we use in LaTeX for the glossaries and indexes, and it really is like the gold standard of how to do these things, at least in terms of appearance. I think the hyperfunctional links that I have up here are actually better than what's in LaTeX, but the PDF is pretty sweet. All right, so it's a little tricky to make these in general. We don't just build a PDF out of it. First, we have to use these packages and tell it to make the glossaries, and we have to use make IDX to get the index. And then we have to use these processors. Normally, this is we don't have any BibTeX entries in here, but in the process of building a PDF, you generally will run PDF LaTeX once, run BibTeX once. We have to run make glossaries and then make index, and then we run PDF LaTeX 2 more times, and then we can open it. So let's run this, and while that's running, you see again I have a before parsing hook. And that parsing hook is going through and replacing those tables and replacing the tables with the LaTeX code that's required, and replacing the links with the things that are needed, so that you have here 3-letter acronym. If you click on this, it jumps to the definition. Down here you can see this index. If I click on this, it goes back to where it was defined, and it's somewhere up in here. And then each of these will also go directly to the place where it's defined. So that's the kind of standard that I was looking for in export to other formats. And to get there, we need a couple of things. So up here I have a set of pre-processing hooks that replace those tables. That's why you don't see them, and insert it into the code. There's also a set of processors for the index and for doing things outside of LaTeX. So these ones only replace the tables, and that's all that's needed, because the links export directly to the LaTeX code that's needed. For other formats, we need to do a little bit more, and so we have this across proc. This is acronym glossary processor, and then the reference org-ref index processor. And those go through and replace the links with org syntax. And so, for example, we get if we just look at the org file, all of those links get replaced by these targets and these kinds of links that jump to these radio targets down here. And then the index is just these simple ones that go back up to these radio targets. And so this kind of org file now can be exported to any regular format that you want, like HTML or Word. And so let's have a look at what comes out. All right, so in HTML, let's look at this. This is what comes out of the HTML. We have all these links that jump down to, it's difficult to tell, but this jumps down to this place down here, and then these entries jump back up to places up here. It's not quite as easy to see in the short file exactly what happens. But if I click here, you can see it does jump to a place where it was defined. And then finally, I'll look at what happens with Oxpandoc. I've been kind of refining what happens with Microsoft Word, and this eventually also works. So here, this will jump to these different places, and I'm not a super big fan of the way these references look, but they do jump to exactly the position where they were defined. They're not page numbers because I don't know how to get those in Word exactly, and they're better than page numbers because it goes to the actual location. But I also don't know if just having a number 0 and 1 or something else would be a better option. It's pretty nice that that these things end up working, and it's interesting. There are some tooltips on here, but the tooltip is the label that's maybe less interesting than if it would be the actual actual term. Okay, so that is more or less what org-ref supports in terms of index, glossary, and acronyms. And this should all work out of the box. There's a couple limitations that maybe are worth talking about. One is this only works for the tables defined inside the document. In version 2, I looked into trying to support external tables and other documents that would be, say, included. But it turns out that it was too hard to get that to work in a performant way because I basically was having to export the document to an org file to get the table in there so that we could parse it in a reasonable way. And that wasn't very good. So I think it still needs some work to figure out how to support externally defined tables and externally defined indexes like across multiple files. And we don't have a good way of doing that at the moment. So as a proof of concept, I think this is a great idea. We just have the tables that define the terms, and we have these hyperfunctional links that are useful and allow us to look over what these things are. You can make sure you use them consistently and pluralized when necessary. And then we get all kinds of other formats besides LaTeX. So if you want to use this in blog posting or making Word documents or other kinds of things, there's a lot of options available. All right, so maybe I'll conclude with why is this part of org-ref? I view these things like refs in a way, right? We have a source here that you could think of as like a bibliography, but it is a collection of glossary terms and acronyms, and we have links that point to those things. That's a lot like a citation pointing to a bibliography entry, and they both use links, and they both have the same kind of processor in place. And so to me, this is part of a ref-like feature that goes in technical writing, and it is goes in the same kinds of documents that need the citations. And so that's one of the main reasons it's here is because that's how I see it. So I think that is it for this particular idea, and I think maybe the main The main thing left that I haven't talked about yet is the DOI utils library, and we'll work on that another day. So for now, thanks